It's time for Screen Junkies Movie Fights.
Oh, what in the world? Welcome to Movie Fights. Hashtag Movie Fights Live. It's not live. We're on tape. So what are we doing? Just hashtag Movie Fights?
Hashtag Movie Fights.
Yeah, hashtag Movie Fights. There you go. And I gotta give a shout out to the Gahooligans in Owl Nation. Hoot hoot. Percival is in the house. We've got an all-star throwdown today. We are not joking around on that. We're gonna be talking about the new movie, The Jokester. So first off, let's meet our friends. He is a real reject and a delightful young man. Welcome back to the party, Greg Alba.
It's exciting to be here, man.
Oh, hell yeah.
Exciting to be. I rode with Ed here, and so I'm hoping DORINA wins. That way it's not awkward on the way back.
Did Ed give you a ride, or did you give Ed a ride?
I gave Ed a ride. So, if he wins, I'm kicking him out in the middle of the
There you go. Call that, summon the Uber. Okay, and this gentleman, he's the host of the Nerd Goat podcast, and he can be seen regularly on SJU. Ed GREER, welcome back, my friend.
Oh, thank you guys.
Only I clapped for
I
you.
know that
Nobody
was
else clapped.
well. These guys are coworkers now, so they're just like,
on the road, man.
we've seen enough of this guy. But thank you guys for having me. This is really cool. I haven't done movie fights in a while, and
We haven't done movie fights in a while.
Oh yeah. But if I do win, I will walk up the 405 like the Incredible Hulk.
Oh, just wandering into the distance, dealing with your rage. Thank you, Ed. And we have from Collider Live, and now we welcome her to the Movie Fight studio, DORINA ARRELLANO.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, help me out.
No, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to actually do an actual movie fights because I've only done the Comic-Con one, and that was fun. But this one I'm actually nervous for, and I hope Greg is right and I do win. We'll see.
Wait, you weren't nervous for the Comic-Con one?
No.
I would have been terrified.
No, it was Friday night.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
It's much more relaxed.
Everybody was drunk on con.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exhausted and there's germs around, you know.
Oh, yeah. The Comic-Con funk hanging in the air. Well, I'm excited to throw down with you guys, and I will be hosting and judging along with the Dan Cam. Welcome to Dan Squared.
Hello.
Dan Murrell, what's going on, my friend?
How are you? It's my first time in the fact-checking seat for a while.
Yeah. We've had some rotating fact checkers.
Yeah.
It's good to have the man with the quickest fact-checking fingers in the biz.
I do my best, Hal. I do my best.
Oh, yes, you do.
Fact-checking, just the facts.
Well, you did like
And it
10
shows.
movie fights in a row, didn't you?
I did a lot of
Yeah,
movie
there was
fights.
like
Oh, yeah, you did the gauntlet.
Yeah.
You ran.
Gauntlet, and then I was on the last one. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm back over here off camera.
Good to have you there. And Danielle, you are not the voice of the people. You are just you are the delightful voice of the queen herself, Danielle Radford.
I am the voice of myself, but y'all, so what we want to do, we want to make sure that we're still keeping this. I love the people. I want to continue to advocate and be the voice of the people. And so even though this episode and other episodes may not be live, what we would like you to do is, just like you do on Honest Trailer commentaries, on Honest Trailers, if you have something that you want me to say, or if you have like a little tidbit or some knowledge, leave those down in the comments. We're going to be looking at them, and we're going to be looking for some comments or some tweets that we can highlight on the next episode of Movie Fights. So, still love y'all.
That sounds wonderful. Yeah, respond to the show. I'll chime in. I'll hit you up, Danielle, and we'll have fun. You know what? We'll pretend like it's live. We can just watch it together.
Still send me corgis.
Yes, corgis, owls, sharks, etc.
Me too.
You guys, what do you say, JTE, roll that sick-ass package?
Prepare to die. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's main event time. Finish him!
Thanks, Thor. Okay, let's...
So now we're physically fighting, right?
No, I don't know what you heard. This is, I know we got into a huge altercation at that Comic-Con, and chairs were thrown. It was quite a con, you guys. Okay, here is question number one. All right, this is a toughie right out of the gate.
Yeah, we'll see.
What cinematic portrayal of the Joker has been the best?
There's the question.
There it is. You can read it as well as hear it. So we're going to start with player number 1, Greg.
Oh yeah. Well, my pick is Heath Ledger. I almost said Jared Leto for some reason. I was like,
the first thing that came. So.
You did not win this round.
My pick is Heath Ledger. I think all our picks are pretty good picks, but for me, this is the one that truly rings as it's the one that is closest to my heart. He's a true agent of chaos. He's menacing, sadistic, yet he's also funny. Nearly every line he said in that movie became an instant quote. And to me, he's the closest, interpretation of the comics version of the Joker that truly actually felt realistic and tangible. And he's also a criminal mastermind who knows how to expose the darkness in people when fear is thrusted into their face. He's a master manipulator who can spew out these twisted philosophies, and yet as an audience member you can still watch it and go, I can actually kind of see where he's going with this. I can actually see where he's coming from, and being in the shoes of he's the villain of it, yet he's the one who steals the show the whole time, and he's not the protagonist as someone's pick will be here, and it's the way the Joker was always meant to be viewed. And in terms of showcasing the true opposite end of the same coin in reference to Batman, he truly does it the best between, I think, all these picks that are coming up.
All right, going with Heath Ledger, Dark Knight. Thank you, Greg. Ed.
Well, I am going with Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker. And this new
fact check that pronunciation, please.
The Joker, Joaquin. It's Joaquin. Fine, Joaquin. No, hey, I think Joaquin is awesome. This is
I mean, you should go all the way with the phonetics. Joaquin Phoenix.
And actually, it's Goker, pronounced like GIF.
Oh yeah.
So the Joker is one of my. The Joker is to me. It's one of these things where you have your different interpretations, but one of the things you always come back to is the actual madness. And I think that this movie is the best at actually portraying the madness and how the madness intensifies and some of the reasons for the madness. And I think that's what it's trying to do. It's also maintaining a little bit of mystery, even though it's telling somewhat of an origin story. So I think with all those elements involved, and I'll elaborate more as we get more into it, but with all those elements, the mystery, the mystery as well as explanation, the great performance by Joaquin Phoenix, and all these things boiled down into one of the quintessential Jokers. And the best one to me.
Right on. Thank you, Ed. Dorina.
So both of your picks are excellent. I love both Jokers, but my personal favorite, and I think the Joker that actually captures the true essence of the Joker that we all know from comics and also TV show movies, is Mr. Mark Hamill. Legend, the best Joker laugh that's ever existed, in my opinion. He's definitely, out of all the Jokers that we've had, he's the yin and yang to Batman when it comes to, good versus evil, as well as both of them coming from representing, Gotham creating an evil person and a good person that's trying to, and they're both fighting each other all the time. And I also think it's one of those things where Batman can't kill him, right? At least specifically in Mask of the Phantasm and most of Mark Hamill's portrayal as a Joker. Batman just can't bring himself to kill him because he understands that. And that right there is a win for this character. Additionally, he's a psychopath. Out of all the Jokers we've seen, he's actually a legit psychopath. He's a narcissist who manipulates people, who is an evil mastermind. And on top of that, he charms his way into you. He manipulates people by being funny, and that's what makes him, to me, the most scary.
All right, fight it out, you guys.
Go.
Oh,
go.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
Well,
elaborate, pick each other apart.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of bobbing
Here's
and
a pencil. Go.
I feel there's going to be a lot of bobbing and weaving here because, of course, they're going to share some similar qualities.
Yes.
I personally find Heath Ledger's to be the best manipulator of them all. I mean, he flat out, kills Rachel in the movie and still manages to put Harvey Dent on the path that he wants him to go on when Harvey Dent has an opportunity to just kill him. And the thing with Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, to me, it's essential that Joker is a criminal mastermind. To me, that's a big integral part to his character. I think Mark Hamill's has it. I feel like Joaquin Phoenix's character is. I love the portrayal. I love that movie. But at the same time, he doesn't truly evolve into Joker for me personally. Like every one of his kills is personal, whereas Heath Ledger's is more reminiscent of Joker as someone who can kill at random, kill intentionally, kill with purpose, not kill with purpose. And it's like this cult leadership that he sort of forms by the end of the movie is by happenstance. It's by chance when that's not intentional at all in the movie.
Ed, you want to rebut that?
I'm quite sure you think those are deadly barbs, but that's the thing about the Joker to me, and this is all a big opinion contest.
Movie fights? What?
That being the case, in my opinion, it is more about the evils of Gotham that create the Joker and the Joker creating Batman. I do understand that there's a common, he dropped him in the juice and he came out all weird, and there's all sorts of different origins people have or motivations for him. But I just think that the best depiction of the Joker to me is a manifestation of Gotham's very madness. And that is what I got in this movie. Your guy could have been a weird paramilitary guy who kind of washed out of a weird militia and kind of put on some grease paint and did some stuff. Hers is very jocular and dangerous, but only as dangerous as a cartoon guy can be. Whereas mine is true, actual Travis Bickleian madness. And his henchman by happenstance, I agree with that. However, it's the only way that I would ever see him being able to field a gang if they felt like they were part of a cultural movement. Whereas he's not part of, none of his henchmen in either of these things are part of any sort of cultural movement and have no real reason to be there in that danger all the time.
Well, Gotham is so instilled with corruption and gangsters and stuff. To me,
there's 100 gangs you could join where you don't get a hammer dropped on your head all the time.
Well, to add to both your points, but also mess with your guys' points.
I'm going to kill you right now.
To me, Heath Ledger's Joker is the intellectual Joker, right? Like, he's a philosopher. He's highly emotionally intelligent. That bathroom scene with Batman is, amazing. But he... bathroom, not bathroom.
Interrogation room.
Scene. I'm like, it looks like a bathroom.
Remember when they went to pee in the urinal?
Joke's on you.
They were in stalls next to each other.
But I think that he knows, because he's so smart, I think he knows that Batman himself is uncorruptible. Right? And so that's why he ends up corrupting Harvey Dent, right? And to show Batman, I can do this to other people, maybe not you. So because of that, I think Heath Ledger's Joker is smart enough to know that he can't beat Batman specifically. He can create chaos in the city, but Batman's never going to be like what he wants him to be. If that makes sense.
But that's part of the joy in the chaos of messing with Batman. Like in that interrogation scene when Joker is being beat up, he's still winning in the interrogation. Even though he's physically getting harmed, he's still winning ultimather because he knows Batman can't cross the line.
But he also knows, unlike other Jokers, specifically Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, I feel Heath Ledger Joker knew right from wrong, right? And he chose to act in the wrong way because he's anti-establishment, right? And whereas Joaquin, he's a little scarier to me, because you don't know what he's going to do. Like, he doesn't seem to know what's right or wrong, or he chooses to just completely go crazy. So that's where, to me, Joaquin is actually scarier than Heath Ledger. But we only see that Joaquin actually turning into the Joker the last 30 minutes of the movie, right? We don't really see. This is more of the Batman Begins version of Joker.
But also, to that point, though, I would like to say that I think that is the power of this particular portrayal, is because it's basically saying that these are the type of falling down several days sort of situations, getting off your meds, the city's overrun, garbage, super rats, there's just so many things happening. Everybody's reading newspapers, there's some kind of outbreak. There's so many things going on.
Having to bathe your mom.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Your mom's a weirdo who's obsessed with basically Trump. You know what I mean? There's all sorts of things that are in that movie that would break your mind. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's kind of showing that it isn't just a couple smears of grease paint. It isn't just, I'm a weirdo, I come from nowhere, It's not that. It's like, real society chipping away at somebody to the point where they are the beginnings of a chaos agent, which is what Joaquin is at the end of the movie. And I just think that person could theoretically develop into the sort of Jokers you guys are talking about, or posit a world where this weird Jokerfish guy can exist.
But that is,
let's shift gears. Go ahead and respond, and then roll that into your final thoughts.
I mean,
Greg.
to me, that is just pure theoretical, though, because there's nothing about him that seems clever and scheming or anything like that, where he does evolve into the actual Joker. Like,
but as the meme says, to you. You know what I mean? You are definitely obsessed with, check my plots and plans and pots and pans. And I am just like, this person is unpredictable, monstrous, will stab you in your neck. This is crazy.
He is.
That's the Joker to me.
He is. But all of our Jokers are unpredictable and crazy. I don't think he's scarier because everyone he kills in that movie is just pure intent. It's like these are people who have wronged him personally, or he feels wrong personally. Whereas like the guy who made the pencil joke at the beginning, that's kind of just a random kill. He gets upset at Michael Jai White in the film, and he decides to torture him.
To that point, I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's go into final thoughts here. Yeah, Greg.
And so, yeah, I mean, I just feel like that character of Arthur Fleck is a cool slice of Travis Bickle and Rupert Pupkin put together, right? Like, that's who he is. But he doesn't feel like the Joker comic to me. To me, Joker should be a character that is, yes, menacing, unstable, but also clever, conniving, master criminal of sorts, someone who's great at scheming and stuff. Arthur never really evolves into the Joker for me in that film. Like, and to me, there's really, I can't say there's a mystery to the character when the whole thing is focused on him the whole time, and it's just a pure dissection of that guy. And with Mark Hamill's portrayal of the Joker, you're going off of Mask of the Phantasm, right? In that, I think to really appreciate Mark Hamill's Joker, it requires the viewing experience of watching the TV show, really getting absorbed in the medium. I think just going off of Mark Hamill's Joker in Batman Mask of the Phantasm, he's not like he's important in it, but he's really a B story to it. And I feel like there's been better portrayals of Mark Hamill as the Joker explored in the animated series, explored in The Killing Joke. Even I don't like the first 30 minutes of that movie, but I think it's better there where you really do get to see it, because in the Mask of the Phantasm, it's kind of more on the one note side. It's more caricature aspects for me. And also to say like Mark Hamill's is the best, I feel like there's a lot with acting that involves body language, facial expressions that really gets thrown to the animators there, as opposed to Mark Hamill actually doing it. With Ledger, I feel like you get the best of both worlds. You have this unhinged psychopath who wants nothing but to bring, pure chaos to Gotham, bringing out that chaos in Gotham. He's funny as well. I think that's kind of an integral part. You got to be a little bit funny to be the Joker, where Arthur Fleck never really made me laugh. And you get to watch all these things take place of how clever this guy is. He is the most intellectual one, but he is still also just as unhinged as the rest. Because of how crazy he is, he's able to get away with these super elaborate schemes, like with kidnapping the two boats and having them choose with each other was just a gnarly experience. Able to manipulate Harvey Dent is so clever because he knows he can't change Batman, so he's going to change Harvey Dent instead. So even in the end, when he's captured, he still wins essentially in that movie. He's still the winner in that film. He's chaotic yet focused, terrifying yet fascinating, and you feel like you understand him, yet he's so mysterious. And also the thing with, and last thing I'll say, the thing that I feel is most comics accurate with him is his multiple choice background, because that is so integral with The Killing Joke as well. There's a line in there that Alan Moore threw in there about having a multiple choice background. And when he tells those stories, you're kind of like, there must be some truth to those scars somehow. To be that psychotic, to carve your own smile in your face, that to me is truly scary.
Thank you, Greg. Ed.
Well, again, it's all in one's opinion of the Joker, and these are vastly different worlds. They're trying to do vastly different things, so it's kind of hard to compare. But just for my dollar, for my good old American dollar, I want a Joker that is his motivate. Even though all of his kills were technically personal, they were also psychotically motivated. There wasn't any just straight A to B. You can't really act like you're safe in Gotham and think that you're not offending the Joker somehow. A guy with a television show offended him. People down at the post office, Thomas Wayne, so many people that aren't related to him offended him and were in danger. So he is a dangerous individual. This is about a more realistic depiction of actual psychotic behavior. I'm sorry, real psychotics don't kick it with a bunch of gangsters, do pencil tricks, and do all this jazz. They stab people in the neck in their apartments, and they let other people go because they like them. That's what real psychotics do. So it's just a matter of taste, in my personal opinion. And in my personal opinion, the Joker doesn't make sense as an adversary to Batman on a bunch of levels. Nobody's Joker at this table in a phone booth with Batman would stand a chance. So it's really more about how the fear he can instill in the city, and an allegiance he can instill in his henchmen. And the only Joker that made real fear in the city, real change in the city, and inspired enough people in his city to have an actual army of goons that would fight this capable martial arts master of Batman is the Joker presented in Joker with Joaquin Phoenix.
Thank you, Ed. Dorina.
So, I disagree. I think that, as I said, Heath Ledger to me is the intellectual Joker, and Joaquin is the unhinged Joker in the sense that when it comes to unpredictability. I get that. However, we haven't really talked about the Joker versus Batman specifically. And I think Mark Hamill's Joker is the most, we're talking about cinematic portrayal here. Portrayal means to me what the Joker's essence is. And Mark Hamill did an amazing job, not just being scary with his voice. Yes, Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix have great physical components that they added to their performance that are great. However, there's a bunch of stuff that you have to do with your voice and physically as well to not just come up with funny jokes, really creepy laughs. Like, there's a whole, it's incredible the emotional range that Mark showed. And not just in obviously Mask of the Phantasm, Killing Joke animated series, but specifically, I think that there's this emotional dependence between the Joker and Batman, and it's shown in the animated Joker more so than any other place. And because of that emotional dependence, I think that, like I said earlier, Heath Ledger's Joker cannot beat Batman. He realizes that. He's uncorruptible. Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, we don't even know if he cares about Batman yet, right? He doesn't even seem to care about anything. He doesn't care that his followers are creating chaos. He's just like, oh, cool, this is fine. I'm going crazy because this world sucks, so I don't care what you do. I don't think he's going to be a leader or anything like that. Whereas Mark Hamill's Joker, he actually represents the chaos and not just all of us and like our own inner darkness, but he actually he's the only Joker to me that represents like true evil as well. And that could be because of whatever psychotic disorders he has, whether he's, as we said, if he's like bipolar, he's psychotic, if he's paranoid, but to me, he's a true psychopath. Like he's the one that you don't know how he's gonna react, whether his relationship with Harley is terrifying and it's a freaking cartoon. Right? Like that to me, if he wasn't a cartoon, you guys would all be shitting your pants, is what I'm saying. Can we cuss? Oops.
No worries.
Okay, we can edit it. Done.
Time. All right. Wow. What a great breakdown of these three iconic Jokers.
We're all right.
You're all right. You're all right. But
I love them all.
Yeah.
You're all right, but only one is really right. Dan, facts.
Yes. Well, I mean, as Ed pointed out, this is mostly an opinion-based fight, so no facts other than I'm sure some people would say, why does Mark Hamill count? Batman Mask of the Phantasm was released theatrically on Christmas Day, 1993. That's why Mark Hamill counts as a cinematic Joker.
Yes.
Yeah. Also lobbying for Joaquin Phoenix's Joker to be called the Walker. That's our name for his version of it. I'm sure I'm not the first one to come up with that joke, but deal with it. It's the internet.
Sure. Thank you, Dan.
Yep.
So you all put out compelling arguments as to why your Joker should reign supreme as the ultimate cinematic portrayal. Dorina, you really sold the case for Mark Hamill, but just something resonated with me when they said, I think it was Greg mentioned the actor and his body, and I just thought about Heath Ledger and the licking and then the contortions of Joaquin Phoenix, and it's just in the portrayal, I feel like that just puts them, even though too many people sleep on Mark Hamill, so thank you for representing an important cause right here today.
Best laugh is all I'm saying.
Oh, hell yeah.
No, it is.
So for me, it came down to Greg and Ed. It's it's a slugfest back and forth. Everybody's landing blows, but at the end of the day, Greg said that Ed's criminal mastermind. Like, it was theoretical that he potentially rallied everyone at the end. And, like, we have to make that A to C leap, whereas we get the entire package in what Greg broke down. And even though I would like to hear, like, a breakdown of the acting performances, because you guys just you had so much in your arguments, but by a hair, I just got to go Greg for the fully realized version of Heath Ledger's Joker.
Boo! No, I'm kidding.
Dan.
Yeah, it is tough, as I mentioned before, and as Ed mentioned. This is about an opinion base. What values of the Joker are important to you? How do you see the character? So I feel like everybody delineated very clearly what they love about their version of the Joker, what connects to them, why they think their version is a good portrayal of it. And that's a good aspect of the argument. But when you come down to who's the winner, I think it's got to be the person that, to me, delineated theirs in context of the other two the best. And I think that's why I'm going to go with Greg, because I think Greg did the best job of not just saying, like, here's why I think this Joker works well and is good, but also, here's why I think this Joker combines this aspect of yours and this aspect of yours and makes it into this portrait, just the overall picture of why this portrayal of the character embodied so many different parts, even of other portrayals, is what put it ahead for me. So great arguments very passionately from everybody, but I think Greg takes the point.
Greg, you get that point. Danielle, did you want to speak on behalf of Jared Leto?
No one can speak on behalf of Jared Leto. I think the work speaks for itself.
Yes. You know what? People don't mention Cesar Romero enough. He's a great friend.
True story.
And I want to say that I do think Mark Hamill is actually very nuanced, all around.
For sure.
Yeah, he is. He's incredible.
So
We
Greg,
gotta say the name
yeah.
Jack Nicholson just once.
Yes.
It's Jack Nicholson.
Guys, we did it.
Also great.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The Scooby-Doo version, Joker. That one. That was a good one.
You know what? We could list Jokers all day.
Man, we could, couldn't we?
So Greg's up 1-0.
Even though he initially picked Jared Leto, just saying.
That's not what the email said.
All right, Ed and Dorina looking to get on the board. Here's question numero dos. So, we ask, what should be the setup for Joker 2? Let's say Joaquin Phoenix dons the grease paint one more time. What should be the setup? And question 2, we'll start with player 2. Ed.
All right. Basically, given the fact that we are in the world that I was just talking about, and we are with a relatively inexperienced Joker, I think one of the main things we have to do is, in the sequel, establish how he becomes, born again hard. And I think that that's a big theme of it. Him getting in with the Mr. Zazzes, the Killer Crocs, all these people from Arkham Asylum, basically. Him being introduced into the Gen Pop and them and their whole society in Arkham further hardens him, and he gains skills over the course of subsequent adventures in there, to where he becomes sort of not necessarily a leader in there, but definitely a wild card in there, to where he can galvanize people a little bit. It could even take place over a few years, the first act, of him being in there getting hardened. But the bottom line is, the overall thing of it is basically One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with the Joker. It's him getting the proper resources together to get out and get into the general population and start tearing stuff up. That's the overall thrust of the movie. Cool.
Got it. Thank you, Ed. Dorina.
So my suggestion is actually a sequel to Ed's. Sort of.
And mine is the prequel to Dream.
So you should fake all of them. But
You three have created quite a Joker-verse.
into the Joker-verse.
Yes.
So mine would be about 10 years later, after this Joker movie, where spoilers, I guess, Bruce is older and becoming Batman. And in this case, though, because I think Joker, the movie, was basically not just narrated by an unreliable character, because we're seeing the movie through the Joker, to the Joker's eyes, and we don't know what's true or what's real. I think it'd be great to see a sequel through Batman's, through Batman's eyes. And in this case, what's happening is Joker has already been at Arkham Asylum. He's gathered his friends, like we're talking about. He's gathered he's gathered basically a group of cronies, and similar. I would love it if it was similar to Almost Got Him, which is my favorite episode from Batman and the animated series, where he gathers all of these villain characters that we all know and ends up trying to defeat the Batman, right? Like, so they all gather. I don't know if you guys have seen this episode, but they're all gathered around a table playing poker, and they're all telling their stories about how they captured Batman and whether or not they've defeated him.
It's a good episode. Yeah.
Cool. Dorina, thank you for that. Greg.
Well, when I got this question, I was really reflecting on what Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips specifically set out to do with their solo Joker movie installment, thematically, tonally. And I didn't want to put Batman in it because Todd Phillips and both Joaquin Phoenix, they were both like, no, we don't want to put Batman if we ever do a Joker 2, because they felt that would detract. So I didn't want to go along that path. Albeit those ideas do sound cool as a fan of Batman, but for this version, though, I think it would do a disservice if we actually threw in Batman in any way or any other rogue villain. So my basic log line, if I were to read it on IMDb, would go something like, sure. After becoming a celebrity-worshipped serial killer, receiving fan letters and Arkham and such, the absentee leader of the cult breaks Arthur Fleck out to lead their cause, but they find a difference in ideologies they perceive from Arthur versus Arthur's actual motives. Because what I find interesting with the way, how we're talking about in the last round, is that he had his own personal agenda with the kills in that movie, yet the way this sort of big cult following that he has at the end of it, their ideas are all on capitalism, politicians. They interpreted his criminal activities as something completely different than what he actually did. And when he's on that talk show with Robert De Niro, he even says, I'm not political. I don't have an agenda like how these guys have this agenda, yet somehow his personal motives gave credence to these riots. So I imagine that not everyone in that group is an unhinged, mentally ill person like Arthur. I feel like the way they interpreted it was that he is someone who is, maybe a Robin Hood of sorts, someone who is fighting against the evil men in power. So what happens when you break that person out? This person who's has this celebrity worship, kind of like when we do with serial killers. So I would explore kind of that theme in the first half of it, and then when he's out of, then you could start segueing into him becoming a criminal leader, a criminal mastermind of sorts.
Yeah, we got a nice taste of that. Let's mix
Appreciate
it up.
that.
Yep.
I wasn't even reading my notes for the first time, and I got cut off. That was great.
Well, Percival went to sleep. So this is the thing, okay? I just must push back on this notion of, again, that's why I structured mine the way I did, is that there is a time for him to get hard. And hardened, because prison, frankly, the first one is about how social services and lack of such can push you into a life of crime or into criminal activity. The next one is about incarceration and how incarceration and the pathology that is introduced to you, even especially if you're already damn crazy, how much more crazy you are if you're put in with a bunch of hardened criminals and you're not really given the chance to rehabilitate. And that is kind of what I think mine is about, rather than yours seems to be almost like Being There or Forrest Gump, where he maintains this childlike, I don't know what's going on, and it's just like that can't hold.
No,
over the course of my movie, he would become more like a Joker.
I think at the end of this movie, we see him already become Joker when he's talking to the social service person within Arkham Asylum, and he says, "Well, you wouldn't get it, right? You wouldn't get the joke." Like, he's already the Joker. I think that we don't really. I don't want to see another Batman Begins or another Man of Steel, which is like an origin story of him becoming the Joker. I want to see a sequel where he already is the Joker. Those last 30 minutes that we got in the movie of Joaquin actually being the terrifying, unhinged Joker we're talking about, I'd rather see him lead all of the other Batmans, a la Long Halloween, all of the other Batman villains, and actually try to fight Batman. Because, yes, I know you're saying that, we've already seen Batman versus the Joker, but we haven't seen this type of Joker fight the Batman, right? We haven't seen somebody that's actually not just that the Batman could be really, really scared of, unlike Heath Ledger, I don't know how Batman would stop this Joker, and that would be interesting for me to see.
But my only rebuttal to that is that in my movie, the the Joker actually earns escaping because he must make relations. First of all, he gets hardened. Then he makes relationships and forms the people like the giant guy, Killer Croc, where if I could just break him out, he could bend these bars. Oh, Mr. Zaz, if I could just get him out of this straitjacket at this time, he could stab these two guys and be able to put that together to actually become more of a mastermind, to see it manifest. It isn't just like, oh, it begins. This is about him graduating, and his graduation present is breaking out of Arkham and unleashing upon Arkham, much like Bane did in the comic books during Nightfall, a new era of bunch of weirdos out there, and there's nobody to stop them for another 10 years. That, my friend, is a climate that makes a Batman. It isn't just your parents getting killed. It's the fact that when you come back from Thailand or wherever you were studying abroad, your city's ruined because all these clowns and weirdos are running around with nobody to check them.
But really quick, I just
great.
don't see Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. I don't see any Joker lasting in Arkham that long. They always escape right away.
I feel like your guys' movies would ultimately detract from the focus of Arthur Fleck, though, from the focus of Joker. I don't see how you're.
But he's not Arthur Fleck anymore.
He's still Arthur Fleck, the identity within the Joker. When you go, you're talking about like this huge rogue gallery of villains, and that would become the focus.
4 names. I said Grok.
It's still a big rogue gallery. It's still a pretty good amount of villains. You put 2 in a movie, people are like, too much. Like, the 4 is a plenty. And then that one, I feel like we would be so focused on Batman specifically. I feel like
because you're telling the story through the villains playing poker. Like it would be basically the episode that we see where they're telling the story of Batman, but Batman. Remember,
but it's still a Batman movie, though.
No,
it's what you guys are describing are not the continuation of.
Batman.
It was first described as being a little bit through Batman's eyes. I did remember that part, but also the thing that
Ed, roll this into your final thoughts, please.
Again, I think it being, when you look at the world that they posited, that your Batman, if we're talking about 10 years later, he's going to be 17, 18 years old.
20.
Around 18 years old, because he was like, I'm sorry, no 10-year-olds letting anybody put their fingers in his mouth. But like that kid is just an 8-year-old dandy, doesn't know too much about the world, has been carried around by his parents as an ornament his whole life. He doesn't know anything. That person 10 years later is going to be 18, even 20. That person's not going to be ready to do anything about anything. But in the world that I'm positing, over the course of that time, the city gets worse and worse. So by the time he comes back at 24, 25, 26, 27, there's a real reason for him to exist. This is not about a Batman movie. It's called Joker 2, not Batman 2, and not Joker and the Cult. It's called the Joker 2.
Mine's called the
and
Cult.
And Joker using other people who aren't even their villain identities yet. I didn't say the Penguin. I didn't say the Penguin smacks somebody with a mackerel for them to get out of prison. I didn't say that. These proto versions of these creepos are let loose as he graduates and gets out into the city. That is a real story beat that could happen in Joker 2 to, again, justify the existence of a Batman, to rise against a city of weirdo criminals that can't be policed by normal policing. I'm setting up that world very capably, I think.
Thank you, Ed. Dorina.
So I like your version, Ed. However, the reason when I say that we're looking at this movie through Batman's eyes, I mean that, spoilers for the episode of Almost Got Him, Batman is dressed as Killer Croc, and he's listening to Poison Ivy and Penguin and all these other characters actually tell their stories about how they beat Batman, right? That's the whole point of that episode. But I think it would be interesting to see. To me, I want to see the Joker not just with Batman, but with all of these other villains. I know that people say you can't fit them in. I disagree. I think that episode did such a great job of actually showing each villain's characterizations perfectly, but then it's a Joker episode, right? So this is Joker 2 that we're talking about. It's a Joker episode because he's the one that actually is the only one that's able to mess with Batman out of all of them. That truly, he captures Catwoman. He, as you were mentioning, he's a criminal mastermind. That's the episode where we actually see that Joker is Batman's arch nemesis compared to every other villain that we see. And finally, for Joker 2, we've seen the sad, depressing Joaquin, and he did a great job at that, but I want to see the Joker that we all know, not just terrifying, but also funny. I want to see the Joker that's more cartoonish and actually, taking pleasure out of causing other people pain and suffering. That's why he's so scary.
Thanks, Dorina. Greg.
Look, guys, I'm sorry to say this, but I feel like what you guys have pitched is the complete antithesis to the world that Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix have specifically delved into, that you can pull up facts of quotes they've said about how they don't want Batman to be in this, that if they were to follow up, they'd want it to be a focus on Joker. I feel like your movies, while sound like cool comic strips, are plot heavy, but I don't really feel the thematic elements being explored anymore. I don't really feel like they're character studies anymore. This doesn't feel like a continuation of the Joker movie that we just saw. This sounds like a cool Batman story that has Joker in it, or the more rogue gallery of Batman, rogue gallery of Batman's villains with Joker in it. For my story, I think it'd be interesting to see a movie where, how I put it, he becomes the Joker, like when he breaks out and he's with the cult, like I call this movie the Cult of Joker, because when they watch him in this leadership position, they have an idea of what he stands for. So what if when he's out there on the streets, they find out that, you know, like he received all the love and attention at the end of Joker that he's been seeking the whole movie, and the Joaquin Phoenix movie, when he's standing on the car, he's receiving all that love and attention. But instead of revolting to lead the people in poverty, the people who are upset, doing all the riots, he actually doesn't care about them. He doesn't care about them. I'd want it to where you can actually watch the guy who was mentally ill, unstable, evolve into master manipulator, evolve into a selfish thief in the underworld of Gotham, stealing and killing from the rich, bringing anarchy to the streets. You can still make the Joker isms, but keep it within the Arthur Fleck continuation of the story. He doesn't have a real end goal in mind, like the way how these riots seem to be viewing him. Like, what if by the end of the journey, the ones that love what he represented ultimately abandon him, but real criminals from the seedy underbelly of Gotham find that there's value in that. His symbol is stripped away and he becomes a villain to be feared by the people of Gotham who once loved him. And then you see him evolving from just pure psychopath into criminal mastermind at the end, but keeping it focused on Arthur Fleck and not distracted by Batman, not distracted by other villains or anything like that.
Time. All right. Good stuff, you guys. Dan, take us to the fact zone.
Just one little thing that kind of came up. The question of Bruce Wayne's age potentially in a sequel.
Yes.
While it's not, I don't believe, specifically stated in the film, the actor who played Bruce Wayne, Dante Pereira Olsen, was around 8 or 9. He's currently 9 when the movie was filmed. So that's his actual age. 10 years later, then he would be around 18.
Good to know. Good to know. Oh, old enough to take some ninja
legal.
training.
He can legally kick ass, is what you're saying.
Yes, because we all know you can only get your kicking ass license once you turn 18. Before that, you can get a learner's permit at 17. Danielle, please tell us what you thought about this argument.
All of these are movies that I want to see, but I do want to say that as interesting as all of these different takes were, the only one, and he mentioned it, the only one to me that felt like really a continuation of the themes of Joker for me was Greg's. The other ones are very interesting Joker movies, but I feel like they are more leading us towards the larger Gotham mythos and the larger Batman mythos, whereas with his, it kept it smaller and more focused on the character study of Arthur Fleck, so I'm going with Greg.
That's one for Greg. I absolutely hear where you're coming from there, just as far as, like, it's almost like you took Ed's logic for the first argument, whereas he was like this, he was leading this people and he became like this unexpected leader, and then you took that and ran with it to create that cult. So I really like that connection to the first movie. But Ed felt very connected to the first movie to me as well. I love the reference of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, taking another iconic 70s film to pair with the use of Taxi Driver and what was that, 81's King of Comedy. I love the lore of Dorina's story. So great arguments all around. At the end, Greg did feel really connected to the movie, but I'm really going. I felt Ed's argument just as embracing more of the world of the Joker and exploring his education as a criminal. So I'm going Ed there. Dan.
I love Almost Got Him. It is also my favorite, or up there, definitely in the top 5 favorites for me of the animated series. But I do agree that it seemed like too much of a departure away from focusing at all on the character, whereas I know he is a key player. There were so many other things and things that have happened in between, it just felt a little disconnected. So it was between Ed and Greg for me. I actually think that Greg's argument about, it's a fun idea, but I kind of felt the same way about Ed's pitch, which was that, it sounds fun, but, does it at all connect with or continue the storyline of this Joker film? And I think that's what this was. It was a pitch for this Joker too. And I felt like Greg's pitch picked up on the themes of the first film, continued what was set up at the end of it as far as the mob's now looking to this leader and the fact that he's not interested in leading these people and what happens from that. And the idea of just like, the other thing was I wasn't sharing the spotlight, which Greg brought up, the idea of like, it's not a Batman film, and both of the other pitches I think were at risk of becoming Batman films with the Joker kind of in there. So to me, the best pitch for a continuation of this Joker universe was Greg's, so I went with Greg.
Greg, you take the point. 2-0 lead going into question number 3. Well fought, everybody. Lots of great Joker knowledge coming out, and a lot of good. If I was watching the show and I hadn't seen like some of these references, it's just like, thank you for dropping knowledge.
I can't wait to hear your pitch for this.
All right, question number 3.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear.
So we've seen a Wolverine movie. Logan, that was in many ways a reworking of Shane, and this Joker film reworked King of Comedy and Taxi Driver. So we ask you, what classic film should be reworked to star a classic comic book character? Oh yeah, that's good stuff right there. And it's question 3. Let's start with player 3, Dorina.
So my pick would be throwback to Sunset Boulevard, starring Catwoman.
Nice.
I think that especially if we got Michelle Pfeiffer, I would die. But if we specifically got an older Catwoman that, and we can have a press member of the Gotham Gazette, for example, play Joe's part, William Holden's part, and come visit Selena, a retired Selena, perhaps hopefully from the Batman Returns one that we saw, and he, we go off of that storyline where he's trying to find out, did Catwoman exist? What is she doing now? We can explore whether or not Batman still exists, right? Like we can go into so many themes here, but to me, Catwoman represents this crazy. She's not just this. I feel like a lot of people put her down as this love interest to Batman, and that's not who she is to me. To me, she specifically to Batman Returns, she becomes this woman that owns her own womanhood and her sexuality after realizing that society, the patriarchy and society suck in the Gotham that she lives. So I feel like she's been hiding out for years and she's making a comeback, and then this Gotham Gazette journalist comes and visits her, and
eventually,
it'd be cool if he ended up dying too at the end or somehow by her, obviously. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Great first pitch, Dorina, Sunset Boulevard with Catwoman. Round the horn to Greg.
Mine would be a psychological horror film inspired by Carrie, but I would be focusing on the character of Jonathan Crane, a.k.a. the Scarecrow. And if you look into the Jonathan Crane's back, there's different versions, of course, but there's very much similarities to Jonathan Crane's backstory with Carrie in a lot of ways, actually. So mine would take place in the 1970s, and I would focus on Jonathan Crane in senior year of high school. And he's someone who is a completely introverted type of science nerd, and he gets made fun of a lot, not just for his demeanor and the way he comes across, but for the fact of how he has this unusual body features, kind of like Ichabod Crane, and so in this world where he's getting bullied a lot, basically. And he also deals a lot with body shaming, which is something that I don't actually see really done with young male characters in movies a lot. And I think it would be cool to explore that, borrowing sort of that theme from Carrie as well. In my version, he'd also be a closet homosexual character who has a crush on one of the football players, one of the only characters who's actually nice to him. But the deeper rooted issues with Jonathan Crane would be that at home, his father, who is a biology scientist, his father is traumatized from being someone who wasn't able to save his wife, aka Jonathan Crane's mother. father from a fire. So he has these, he believes that he's working on developing a cure for fear. Borrowing from the comics, the father's developing a cure for fear. And this is doing twofold. One fold is that, similar to Carrie, where these philosophies become an abusive form, he is developing this because he thinks fear is the enemy, and also he believes that if he can have his son overcome the fear, he can finally become a man and stand up for himself and go after all these things. So borrowing the idea of like abusive philosophies, and then also dealing with bullying and all these sort of thematic elements that you see explored in Carrie as well before a young male in 1970s Gotham High.
Thank you, Greg. Ed.
Well, we've heard of things like old gunslingers, but we never heard of an old sword swinger. You know what I mean? So I wanted to do Unforgiven with Conan, because I do believe that there's a lot of mythos in the elder tales of the barbarian. It isn't just all like saving gals from zombies and stuff. There's a lot of real world building that happens from Conan's sword. Like, he goes through areas and changes the way their history goes. And one of the apocryphal tales about Conan is he becomes the king of Aquilonia, the America of the Hyborian Age. He becomes the king by strangling the old king on his own throne and becoming the people's champ. You know what I'm saying? Hey, RVD.
Yeah.
You know, so basically, I want to see that story. I want to see him go from sort of a washed up, grizzled, like sharpening his sword, keeping it sharp, but never using it anymore. Maybe a farmer, you know, sort of Thanos sort of situation where he's just like, ah, man, I already did it, baby. Got my little plot of land. And then he gets pulled back into the larger politics of the Hyborian Age, and he must use these ultimate skills that have fallen by the wayside with more currency, more egalitarian cities, more metropolitan cities. There's less and less barbarians, less and less people like him. One barbarian in this new world that's cropped up in the last 40 years would be an army unto itself, and that being pushed back into service to help humanity for maybe the first time in his whole life. And then his reward at the end, of course, is the crown that he wears with a weary brow.
Right on. And did you mention what movie you're...
Unforgiven. Yeah,
great.
It's Unforgiven.
Great. Yeah, Clint Eastwood's great Unforgiven. All right, fight it out, y'all.
I mean, I want to see all these movies.
Yeah. I mean,
these all sound cool. I'm going to try to poke holes in here.
Right?
That's too brilliant.
I mean, my thing is, the reason I find mine idea interesting is because I think in Sunset Boulevard, Norma Desmond and Joe, I think they both think that they can manipulate the other one. And what I like so much about Catwoman as a character is that she also is unpredictable, right? Like, you don't know what she's going to do. And if you see in Batman Returns, like, you know, Max Schreck kills her, quote unquote, the great Christopher Walken. But then when she comes back and he's alive, she's just kind of messing with him. She's not even, you know, mad at him, right? She's just like, oh, what's up? Like, it's fine. I don't care. Like, that's why I think Catwoman is scary, right? And so I think it'd be really cool to see that relationship between her and another male again, and seeing kind of her representing, you know, strong women that are at the end of the day, like, usually pushed over by douchey dudes. None in this room, of course. And I think it'd be cool to see that perspective. Also, if we get Michael Keaton showing up at the end, I mean, everyone goes crazy.
Oh, everyone goes crazy.
Ooh, nice morsel right there.
Ripped off mask is still all tore up. Nobody fixed my mask. No, but and one thing, I'll say something good about both of you guys' pitches. I love the fact that it's more like women don't die after 40.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I love that. That needs to be said. And as in regards to yours, I love that we're getting more, number one, inclusivity, but also that inclusivity that could go with trauma, you know what I mean, to make a scarecrow and to have such a complicated origin. But I do believe it's sort of trucking a little close to Joker territory, which is why I had to jump all the way out the Batverse with mine and look at just something I've never seen before, which is elder fantasy. Everybody in the fantasy is some eternal elf, and this and all the old kings are just fat and they're getting stabbed on the throne. But Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, with about 10 weeks of work, could be super old man strong as he's been in any movie, and just really be able to show like what what grizzled fantasy guy would look like. What the sort of like to live. I mean, to live to 30 in that era is insane. But to live to 60, how badass would you have to be?
I mean, I think both of I think everyone's idea is really cool. This is the most complimentary movie fights round I've ever been a part of.
I think that
If
the one fight that to kind of defend my pitch a little bit here, is that mine is the only one that hasn't had its own solo adaptation yet. And I feel like there's been several Catwoman ones.
No,
There's
but
been
they're
several,
not good.
and there's been several Conan ones as well.
I would say that there's a reason why nobody's done an Ichabod Crane story.
Well, that's
Jonathan Crane story. My bad.
Well, that's why I don't want to do this one, because I feel like one of the cool things about Joker was that they took these themes and these story concepts from like Taxi Driver and King of Comedy that somehow are still relevant today. And I feel like dealing with these thematic elements of like abuse attracts abuse, and then how when he's in school. And actually, no, really quick, I want to backtrack a little bit. When you were saying that it's too similar to like the Batverse, but it's was that what you told me? I was kind of confused on what you said.
Oh no, I'm saying
similar
that,
to Joker.
It's similar to the Joker in that it is a reasoning behind this character who we've already have a lot of familiarity with, has been used capably in two pretty darn good movies recently. But I just feel like mine's a little fresher.
But in terms of, I think though that we never have seen an origin story, even with Joker. He's still an adult. I think it'd be fascinating to go to the child psychology element of the origin of a villain and see how they formed from there. I think you can do a lot of cool things with the fear toxin elements of how he's having like nightmarish sort of Eraserhead type of visuals.
That's what I was actually going to suggest another movie for Scarecrow, because Carrie to me is, I think you are right that there's that emotional abusive relationship going on, but there's also religious themes to it, and I feel like the Scarecrow, the whole point is that he's supposed to tap into a specific fear that all humans have, right? Right. So I
roll this into your final thoughts, by the way.
So Hal, I'm talking. Please don't interrupt me.
Sorry.
No, I'm kidding. So I would pick. I think it's an interesting pitch, but I would pick another movie for Scarecrow. Maybe like an Eraserhead. Maybe like a Hellraiser version would be really cool. With your pitch, I love Conan, except for the snake parts, and I think that that's. The reason I like it so much is because of the fantastical aspects, and if you're gonna make it into, or if you're like turning it into a Western, then you're losing all of that, right? So, I don't know, and also Michael Keaton and Michelle Pfeiffer reunion.
Nice.
Point.
Dorina.
And a sound effect in post.
Well played, Greg.
Well, while I like the story ideas you guys have, I don't really see how borrowing from the films necessarily, whatever thematic elements those films that you guys are saying it's in the vein of, are necessarily relevant for today, whereas I feel like mine can be, with the social commentary, cautionary tale elements about that I thought in Joker were great about mental illness, but I also think this would focus more on how the youth are treated, teen angst, and bullying, with this backdrop serving as a cautionary tale as well. I mean, it's interesting to me how on social media it seems like the nerds have become the bullies. So what if we went back in time and saw that being a nerd in school at one point really wasn't cool, and look how people were treated back then. And I feel like bullying is still a really bad epidemic that happens today, so it would be cool to see that. I also think it'd be cool to focus on a character, like I said, when he is very young, strictly the high school portion. I think you could have like a really cool finale of this guy who is sort of, it's kind of this weird arc where he embraces his fear by the end of it, but he still doesn't get what he wants from the people, the approval, so he does take his revenge, and kind of having a similar sort of showdown of Carrie. I think you can do a cool sort of finale at like a Halloween dance where he is like you guessed it, a scarecrow outfit, and he unleashes like the fear toxin in there, and you can watch all the people who have wronged him sort of kill each other, or kill themselves or something like that. So we haven't seen a Scarecrow movie yet, so I think it would be cool to just get finally an origin tale of him that is actually pertinent for today's standards.
Thanks, Greg. Ed.
I think that again, I said it in my argument, I think there's a reason why we haven't had one, because I don't know that the character's reedy frame can withstand all of the stuff that you've put on them, nor do I believe that it really connects with Carrie and all that much. As Dorina stated, The thing about Carrie is there's religious undertones. There's all these different ways. She's dealing with literally having telekinetic powers. Having your daddy know how to make fear gas is not the same as being able to tear apart the prom with your mind. I don't really feel like they relate. With the Catwoman thing, again, women don't die after 40. I love the whole combining them back together. I love all that. I love the nostalgia of it. Like, these were the days. The pictures got small. You know, that whole thing. I love that. However, with both of these ideas, I think there's a sincere, severe paucity of comic book action. The whole reason why we're trying to put a comic book with a classic theme is so that they can be like Logan. Logan had Shane's skeleton, but its own adamantium endoskeleton along with it too, and its own action vertebrae. And I think that made it be a lot more acceptable than like an old school, Western just with Logan. It had both things, modern comic book action and old themes. Mine has that as well. You would not lose the supernatural aspect of, it's just like Game of Thrones. It'd be Game of Thronesian in regards to Unforgiven shot like Game of Thrones with sort of Game of Thronesian sort of things happening. No dragons maybe, light magic, Thulsa-Doomy sort of stuff. And again, the Hyborian Age forged the world we live in right now. And I think just going back and exploring that with a Western's eye, with some great action from 87-11, like John Wickian, fresh action in a swashbuckling movie without a bunch of CGI crap, I think it's something that people would really enjoy.
Thank you, Ed. Bam, there we go. Dan, factually, what's up?
Nothing to correct factually. It checks out. Everything's good.
Right on. Dan, please, why don't you favor us with your thoughts on this round?
Yeah. 3 great movies, first of all, starting from a base of it. And I love, modern spins on all of them. I think Greg had me at the beginning. Like his initial pitch, I thought tied in very well. But the further we got from it, the further I think we got away. It felt a little muddled for me when you're looping in the dad working on the fear. I mean, it kind of ties in, but it felt like not quite a match. So it was between Ed and Dorina for me, and the idea of an old Conan. And again, like when Ed started his pitch, I was like totally on board, but then as he went on, it really seemed to tie in more to existing lore, not so much like here's how I would take Unforgiven and some of the themes and make this into a Conan the Barbarian movie. It's more like I like the concept of an older Conan, which I do too, but how does this tie into the movie? And it was taking a classic movie. So for me, I think that Dorina did a good job of, Sunset Boulevard, the idea of this older Catwoman. It ties into the original. It is similar in the sense of like you're dealing with the same things of being past your prime and moving on and all of that. So to me, it was the best tie-in between the source material, this comic book character, how you're going to do it. Ed's argument against it didn't really resonate with me because Joker didn't really have any much comic book action in it either, and this is about sort of spinning a character off in a new direction. So Dorina's pitch was the one that I'm going with. That's where my vote goes.
Thank you, Dan. That's one for Dorina. Danielle, please let us know your thoughts.
All of these were super great. I have to agree where Greg's was a fantastic pitch, and then kind of a little bit squishy for me.
Don't worry, I know. I felt it when I was talking.
We all feel it while we're opening. It's like, there's just words coming out now. But great opening salvo. Did get a little bit muddled for me, and it was between Dorina and Ed, and I have to say I agree with Dan. I really, as much as I loved Old Man Conan, I guess it does sound really interesting. I would like to see like an older Arnie kind of step up. I didn't feel as much of the Unforgiven in that as I did just, which was great. The themes were fantastic, but I didn't feel as much of like the bones of Unforgiven, whereas Dorina's felt very clear about how it would be, how she would relate and then spin off from Sunset Boulevard. So going with Dorina.
Great. Dorina, you get the point. And,
Get a point. Can I leave now?
No. One line for your movie. I'm ready for my close-up, Commissioner Gordon. Or something.
But you'd have to do a Michelle Pfeiffer voice, right? Commissioner Gordon.
Do it.
Yeah, do it.
Do it.
I wouldn't touch you to scratch you.
You know what? I think you did it 10 times better than I could have possibly done. So it's Greg 2, Dorina 1, Ed looking to get on the board. Here we go. Question number 4. So the genius that is Martin Scorsese, he controversially said that he is not a big fan of comic book movies. Said they're more like a theme park ride. So we ask, what comic book or graphic novel adaptation would you show to Martin Scorsese, and I'll tack on at the end, to change his mind, to be like, what are you thinking? If you, I also think, should his mind be changed? That's a whole nother question. But we ask, what would you show him to change his mind? Greg, start us off.
Yeah, I chose a movie that I think is poetic, haunting, visually effective in its storytelling. This is to me, one of my favorite movies of all time, and that is Sam Mendes' Road to Perdition. The story follows a mob enforcer's son. He witnesses a murder, forcing him and his father to take the road and his father down a path of redemption and revenge. I mean, first off, this movie is just gorgeously shot. It's one of the most beautifully shot films I've ever seen. And going off of Scorsese's quote of talking about how I have it right here about how it's trying to convey emotional, psychological experiences to another human being, and how these movies are theme parks. This movie is the antithesis of being a theme park comic book movie. It is purely character driven. Every relationship in here is extremely complex. It explores these themes of what it means for a father to be a son, and there's so many good visual storytelling moments that don't rely on dialogue at all. The action sequences all have true purpose behind it, and the performances all around. Tom Hanks, Paul Newman, Daniel Craig, Jude Law is Jude Law, I think, is a great example of how to do like a Dick Tracy-like villain, but make him truly realistic and believable. So, like going with this question, do I think we can, convince Scorsese to go watch a bunch of Marvel movies? Probably not. But I think this can encourage him to go check out more comic book movies like this one, or perhaps encourage people to go watch movies like this one.
Thanks, Greg. Ed?
Well, this is kind of rough because I thought I would have won a point by now and I would have a little bit more room to play with this question. just a little full disclosure. Wow. So that being the case,
your Batman that you drew was really good, by the way.
Oh yeah, well that's what I'm good for.
Yeah.
Now look, this is the thing. Black Panther, I would show him that because number one, it'd be probably the first time I saw a movie with that many black people in it. Number two, you talk about the father and son, the whole jazz. You know what I mean? There's father and son stuff all through this movie, and I do believe that he would at least try to relate to the Shakespearean themes of the King Lear of it all. And I maybe kind of like Ryan Coogler saw an Akira Kurosawa film. You like that? Like I said. This is the most patronizing. The fact that we have to care about not about what a great filmmaker thinks. No. He's a great filmmaker.
Yes.
Top one or two, in my personal opinion.
Oh, yeah.
But why is everybody why do we have to change anybody's mind about any of this stuff? It's making $1 billion, nerds.
Because this question says.
It says movie fight.
It made $1 billion, nerds. You won. You won. Accept the victory. Be kind victors for once in your life. You know what I mean?
Can we give him a point for that?
No, I'm just saying we've won. We've won. We're supping at the carcass of these dumb.
We're not going to rest until everyone appreciates Endgame.
That's what I'm saying. And then when we get branded as one of us types, we want to go, no, it's much more nuanced than that. Well, doesn't appear to be. But anyway,
you make a great point for the spirit of the question. So
in closing, for my first part here, Black Panther does have real themes. One of the greatest screenplays in the whole Marvel oeuvre. I'd say the screenplay stacks up right along with Winter Soldier or any of that stuff. And it's basically it has the task of doing an origin story without being boring.
Yeah.
It has a task of showing a whole new culture. It has a task of showing how that culture relates to greater culture in the world. And I would just have him watch that movie, and at the very end when he's going, I really like, I say, now imagine they were all Italian, and watch him go, I really like it now.
I like it. Dorina, what do you got?
So I think I would let him show me whatever movie he wanted, let's be honest. But if I wanted to convince Martin Scorsese that there are good and entertaining comic book movies out there, because I think you guys are kind of at different opposites for me. You have a very serious comic book, Greg does here, whereas Ed has more of like the fun, even though really good, but it's more a fun action type comic book. I would go in the middle, and so my choice would be V for Vendetta. V for Vendetta has everything. It's not just a great, beautifully shot movie with an amazing score by Dario Marianelli, which I think Martin Scorsese would appreciate, but it has themes that I think he would be interested in, that, the people becoming anarchists and anti-establishment and trying to fight the government. The cast is excellent. Stephen Fry, John Hurt. These are people, Hugo Weaving. These are people that I think Marty would respect and also be impressed by their characters in this. John Hurt is a total dick in this movie. He's a very scary villain and a very real villain that we all live with every day right now, apparently. And additionally, Martin Scorsese is known for great soundtracks. And this is, V for Vendetta literally did the best use of Tchaikovsky's 1812 Overture. That's one of the coolest scenes in any movie at the end when they blow up the Big Ben and all the crowd is gathered there with the V mass. I just think it's a really fun and smart movie that we can all relate to, and I think that would be entertaining to him. He would think it's smart, but also know that there's some action sequences on there that aren't just mindless, CG monsters fighting superheroes. So I think he would enjoy it.
Mix it up, y'all.
I mean, isn't there a scene when Hugo Weaving throws like a CGI knife or something and cuts around everyone in there? It's still like really elaborate CGI kind of.
Right.
I feel like with these two movies, they still fall under the category of what I think they're better than just theme park movies, but I can still see Martin Scorsese going in and being like, no, there's the big takeaways with these movies tend to still be the visual spectacles. V for Vendetta, less character, more political commentary.
Well, I would say one thing, just as one tiny rebuttal though, you don't change people's minds by showing the inventive thing you want to show in its least inventive form. Right? You don't show somebody, you don't convert somebody to basketball by showing them something that's not quite basketball. And Road to Perdition could have been based upon anything, whereas both of our movies at least must have been based upon a comic book. Road to Perdition didn't have to be based upon a graphic novel. That could have been a Steinbeck novella.
But it is, though.
It could have been anything. But I'm saying, though, you're obfuscating its origins by your very pick. You're obfuscating its
History
origins.
of Violence. It's a great movie, but if you show it to Martin Scorsese, he's not going to know it's a comic book movie unless you tell him it is.
Yeah, because I could have said Old Boy.
But
Everybody puts their pinky
isn't
up,
that the
but
whole
doesn't
point
mean
that it
anything.
can? Isn't that the whole point that it can exceed past what a comic
I
book
agree,
movie
but you're not
is?
going to convince him to watch other comic book movies via Road to Perdition, which is more of a typical dramatic movie.
I mean, I don't agree with that. When I watch Road to Perdition, to me, it is the most strikingly visual movie from pulling out these framing devices, the way the cinematographer composed, like the whole photography of the film looks like a moving panel.
Well, if you're going to go with visual...
It looks like a comic book.
If you're going to go with a visual movie that would please him aesthetically, then go with Sin City in that case. Just saying.
Why? What do you
Because
mean?
that's a comic book movie that...
Well, no, I'm
you're
trying,
talking
but
about
that's
that the
but that
visual
is not the
aspect would be
emotional side.
something.
I'm trying to encompass everything that Martin Scorsese is
But
talking
again,
about.
and let's argue about
That
our
doesn't do
movies
that.
here. Let's argue about our movies. I believe, realistically, story-wise, Martin Scorsese would like my movie because, frankly, you can. A lot of the characters are analogous to ones he's explored before. In Mean Streets, you got the character of Johnny Boy. Johnny Boy's too damn crazy. You can't corral him. That's sort of like, that's a little bit like Killmonger and a little bit like some of the people who are more zealotous in his regime. You got people who are like rats. There's rats in this story. There's people who rat out, different.
I don't think Martin Scorsese would sit through the last third of Black Panther. I think he would turn it off as soon as
I agree.
Killmonger and Black Panther are fighting in that
Well, what
Tron
about them
area.
CGI knives? He gonna turn it off with them CGI knives too.
I mean, a lot of the movie.
The last third of the movie is just CG stuff in Black Panther. That's it.
There's still like
I would
V
tend
for
to agree
Vendetta
with
is still
that.
a big giant film with like a lot of explosions and stuff. And like I said, the characterization is the last thing people take away from V for Vendetta. You want to talk about a comic book adaptation that is in tune with Scorsese films. This is a mob family period piece in the East Coast, and it explores father and son themes. Mob story about family is like what Scorsese excels at. But what makes this different is it's not captured at all like how Scorsese would
Roll
capture
this into
it.
your final thoughts, Greg.
Well, that's pretty much around my final thought right there. Mine is the movie that has like the Oscar nominations. It's got the great directing, the great writing, the incredible connected performances. I mean, you're watching the story of Tom Hanks, who's distant from his son, who through his son learning the truth, they start becoming closer, but every time he kills, it makes an even a bigger dent in their relationship from being able to view him as a father. It's thematically on point, like the Catholic things, which Scorsese loves to explore in his movies too. I think this would be the one that connects with him the most, because the whole point is we're not going to, like what you were talking about in your opening rant. We can't convince Martin Scorsese, and there's no point in trying to do that. But what if we can sway him in a way to show, hey, there's more kinds of comic book movies than Marvel. There's more kinds of comic book movies than the DC ones. Look at these ones and promote those, and then maybe with Scorsese backing that, we can get more of these kind of graphic novel adaptations.
Thanks, Greg. Ed?
Yeah. All I'm saying is, I'm not trying to appease him, okay? I'm trying to change him, right? Is that what I'm trying to do? Because this whole like half-ass appeasement, like, oh, here, sir, I have this almost gangster movie that you know, you know, I don't get that. I don't get that tactic.
Oliver Twist pitching Martin Scorsese.
I don't get that. I don't get V for Vendetta, because I don't think he would appreciate the greater revolutionary themes in it. But I think anybody could talk about the family aspect of Black Panther, and also a hidden society, La Cosa Nostra. Anybody? Like there are hidden societies with hidden rules and all these rituals that give them a certain power. And when those are opened up to the light of day, all types of stories happen, because the uninitiated don't understand how to deal with that. That's literally the story of the mafia in America and every single depiction of them. And it's the same in regards to the Wakandans in Black Panther. Their very existence challenges the way that we look at the world. So, like, I just think that if I'm going to try to change his mind, if I'm going to try to show him something outside of his purview, can't do better than a movie chock full of technological Africans. That's the last thing he'd want to watch, and that's why I would want to make him watch it.
Thanks, Ed. Dorina.
That's the subtitle to Black Panther, too. Psychological Africans.
That's the sequel. I really enjoy both of those movies that you guys are pitching, but I think that Black Panther, what you're saying about it, yes, I agree with all those themes, and yes, we all see them. There's no way Marty is still going to sit through that movie, because as much as that movie has important themes that we can all relate to and are fascinating and are relevant to our society, you're going to lose them as soon as they go into the MCU style filmmaking aspect of making things funny and joking and also these movies end up still being for kids, right? I don't think Martin Scorsese watches family movies. So on that note, with Road to Perdition, I stick to my point. I think V for Vendetta is a good mixture of both of these movies, where you have a really fun MCU type movie that we all watch, that's like a popcorn blockbuster, that's good, but then you have Road to Perdition that I think Martin could probably look at that movie and say, that's a good movie that I could have made. I think he'd be more interested in seeing something different that he's actually interested in. And V for Vendetta is a good mixture of having political themes that are relevant to our society, as well as not a bunch of boring CG action sequences that he would turn it off for. I think he would love the performances. I think he would love John Hurt basically acting like a Hitler is scary and terrifying and relevant, and I think he would love the soundtrack, and because he's a music guy. So there you go.
Boom. Thank you, Dorina. That is time. Dan, facts.
I'm sorry.
What are they?
Well, my fact checking ties into my judgment, so I'll let you know. I'll leave it to you how.
Yeah. Why don't you roll right into it?
Yeah. Okay. So. Yeah. Okay. So. I disagree with the foundation of Ed's argument about Black Panther, and that it would be the last thing that Martin Scorsese would want to watch, because he is, first of all, a great champion of world cinema. Just last year, he remastered through his foundation a film from Senegal and championed it and gave it a premiere at Cannes. And it was very upfront about how important he thought the movie was. He has listed Do the Right Thing as one of the 85 films that you have to see if you want to know anything about film. And when he released an extensive list of his favorite movies, and the most recent film on that list was Black Klansman. So I just disagree with this entire assertion that Martin Scorsese would never want to watch a movie with a large number of black people in it, because it's just simply not true. He's been a champion for many films from black filmmakers and is a great advocate of voices for films around the world. So I disagree with that assertion, and I feel like the Black Panther choice was predicated, and I think even the final argument there brought that argument back. I just don't think that has a factual basis. So it was between Greg and Dorina for me, and I actually would go... it was close, but in the final closing arguments, I think Dorina won me over just in the sense that if he's sitting and he's looking at a movie, he may be more drawn to something that perhaps shows something that's a little bit more of a departure than some of the things that he's done, that perhaps he could see some new DNA in. So I'd go with Dorina. And by the way, I pitched this question. It's, you know,
Sir, you're who we should be mad at.
That was perfect. That was a perfect dismount for that dissertation. That he picked the question. That was perfect. That was perfect.
I mean, his thoughts on comic book movies did set the Twittersphere on fire, and we just do and we all know nothing's gonna turn Scorsese. So he's like, I love comic book movies now. I want the Snyder cut.
And can I please clarify one thing? I'm not saying he is a racist.
Yeah.
I'm saying have one black lead ever. That's all I'm saying.
Yes. No. Listen. I think Dan made a nice clarification, and like we're separating the man from his films. Like I'm trying to think of people of color in Martin Scorsese films. I can think of Samuel L. Jackson in Goodfellas. It's not a long list. So I think you both made great points, and I don't think Ed for a second you were saying the man was racially insensitive.
No,
Right.
I'm not
Exactly.
saying that either.
Yeah.
I was just
No,
taking, umbrage with an.
Listen.
Can we actually save that soundbite of Dan just going,
That's gonna be a GIF. That's gonna be a GIF.
I'm just saying
All
I
of it.
appreciate where both y'all are coming from. At the end of the day, I agree with Dan. I thought the best case was made for V for Vendetta. I think that I think you kind of just split the gap right there and gave us the proper gateway drug for Martin Scorsese when it comes to comic book movies. I think you listed a lot of the elements that would draw him to it. Good stuff from both you guys, but yeah, I'm going Dorina. So we're all tied up. A great moment in sports. It is 2-2, and
I'm so hungry.
we are headed to round number 5. Uh-oh, somebody get this man a Snickers. Okay.
we're going to get fish.
This is a trial by fire. Right?
Yes.
Oh boy.
Should we have a food fight after
No,
this?
we're good.
Yes.
do this.
Empty water bottle fight.
This is your turn, Ed.
All
Let's
right.
kick it.
Question number 5. Ed, still looking to get on the board. 2-2. What
You got this, Ed.
What young Will Smith movie would have been better if it starred old Will Smith? All right. Inspired by Gemini Man, where you get computer-generated young Will Smith versus old Will Smith. And let's start with that.
Okay, my pick is Independence Day because I think it is the movie where him being older could actually add to the story. If indeed we were coming into the story with an older Will Smith, I think he may have been able to have a little bit of previous contact with the aliens. I understand that it may be an overused plot, but sometimes I saw something. I saw it. And you guys are acting like I didn't see it, and I'm going crazy. And then the whole world's about to end, and they go, oh, you know that thing you saw? Come down and join this elite team of dudes who can fly this stuff. And I think it would have really helped to explain how Will Smith could fly their machinery so quickly if they had maybe if they had got some sort of, either they had previous knowledge of it and he was introduced to the threat a little bit before it came to Earth, maybe. Something like that. I think these story
Hey, if Ray can fly the Millennium Falcon.
don't get them started.
Right.
But that's all I'm saying. I think with an older Will Smith, they would have had more opportunities to write more plausible reasons for a lot of things. Like,
Sure.
oh, hey, I'm part of the alien fighting squad we never thought would have to exist. And now that it does, oh my God, this is crazy. I think that would be more the flavor of it. And I think it would make a lot more sense. His involvement in it wouldn't be so chance. It would be an actual, he is the man for the job sort of situation.
All right, welcome to Earth. Dorina.
Can I punch my water bottle? So I am going with Hitch because as whoever's seen it, it's basically Will Smith being a professional dating consultant. My dream job. I think I should get paid for that. But I as much as charming as Will is and as lovable as awesome as he is, I think I'm just gonna say I think older men are attractive. So if he was older and wiser, I would find the movie a little bit more believable, especially with someone like Eva Mendes, because it's Eva Mendes. She's awesome. So there you go.
All right, an older, more charming Will Smith, a little gray on the dome. Greg.
Yeah, my pick. Wicka wicka wow wow west, baby. Yeah. I love doing that song at karaoke.
You don't want to see my hand where my hip be at?
Audrey's in the star. All right. So this movie, I thought it was kind of weird when I watched. I mean, there's some script problems with the film. Why not? I enjoy the movie personally, but I think it would have worked stronger. It kind of didn't make sense to me that the young gunslinger is the one who isn't a fan of technological advancements, and the old guy is the one who is not traditional, and he's all about the crazy inventions and stuff. But beyond that little thing, I think that Will Smith, if he was older in that film, with the actor that he has evolved into, a better performance automatically makes a better movie. And this is the only movie, I think, between the three of these that actually needs to be better. Because in that film, his character has this really traumatic background. And sure, it's a comedy, but Will Smith of today can still play tragic backstory and still elevate a material in a sort of humorous way if needed. And when he's like telling the whole story, when they like kill that scorpion or something like that, when they're eating food with Kevin Kline, I don't feel any of that emotional depth with him that he can provide for sure today as an older actor, a more experienced actor. That movie only has the charms of Will Smith, the funniness of Will Smith, the cool guy Will Smith, but yet he's got this totally tragic backstory that an older Will Smith would most definitely be able to include into his performance. Whereas I think with your guys' movies, they're both well received by critics, well received by audiences, box office hits. Mine is the one that is a failure all around and needs actual improvement.
Let's open it up to everybody.
Well, I would say that they're not going to make 24 years of Will Smith. They're just not going to do that. Like the older Will Smith would make his backstory way too tragic, and a lot of the aspects of his initial, let's call it indentured servitude, so I don't piss anybody off. A lot of that would have been really terrible to try to include into this giant spiders, off-color Family Guy-esque fart jokes and sex jokes, and then he was also like, a servant for 24 years and escaped and has all these gadgets. That's a lot.
The way you're talking
to do one movie.
The way you're talking about changing Will Smith, affecting the way your plot unfolds in the movie, is the same way I'm talking about how you could change the way my movie is personally executed. Your movie already has a character like that. It's called Randy Quaid. He's the guy who's like obsessed, has the whole thing with the aliens in the background. And with your pitch of Hitch, it just sounds like the same exact movie, but you would just find him personally more attractive in the film.
Yes, but the whole point is I would trust somebody. If somebody's giving me professional dating advice, I'm not going to trust some young dude. I'm going to trust an older person, woman or male. Additionally, the question is what movie would be better? Would be better, right?
Yeah.
Independence Day would not be better if he was older, because I love my favorite part of that movie is the relationship between Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum's character. And I feel like Jeff Goldblum is actually kind of like the older version of Will Smith, and he's kind of, they're good counterparts to each other, and so I think that makes that relationship makes the movie better. That he's kind of like leading him to be a badass, basically.
But just as one tiny rebuttal to that, though, I do believe it's more like scientist guy and pilot guy is their dynamic rather than old and young. I think scientist guy and pilot guy make that relationship more different.
Yeah, you're right. I guess what I mean more so is the type of personalities that they're doing. By older, I mean like Jeff Goldblum has this, he's a little bit more cynical, right? Like Will Smith's character is supposed to be like the heroic young kid that's less scared and just does things and just punches aliens, right? So I think we would lose that character if he was older.
I agree.
Wild Wild West would not be better at all. because that is a horrible movie. And so even if you had an old Will Smith, you would still have the same issues that that movie has, which is boring. And also, if we didn't have that movie, we would have The Death of Superman Lives, with Nicolas Cage's Superman. So that budget, actually, the movie by Tim Burton where Nicolas Cage was going to be Superman, was canceled, and that budget went to Wild Wild West. So F that movie.
Anything else? Let's make this your final thoughts.
No, I mean, that's pretty much it. But I'm just saying. And Hitch, it's just a romantic comedy. It's a simple movie, but I find wiser people more believable to give. I don't know. I'm done. I'm tired.
Thank you, Dorina.
Movie fights is long. Yeah, you guys have literally given me nothing really specific that would actually enhance the movie in terms of what would old Will Smith bring to that movie now. I'm talking about an actor who is much like Wild Wild West was very early on in his career, a little bit after Independence Day, which, by the way, launched him to movie star stardom, was Independence Day. Hitch was a great romantic comedy. I think he's the right age in that movie. He's like the perfect age in that film in terms of the context of the storytelling. Wild Wild West is the only one between these three that actually needs some improvement. And there are so many movies we could think of that are like, the movie's okay, but I recommend it because of this performance. And Will Smith could have brought that, and I think it would have made the dynamics make a lot more sense for the old gunslinger who's a little bit more set in his ways, and it would give more pathos and depth to the idea that he has been hunting Kenneth Branagh for this whole freaking time, and he's so much older in his years. It just, for me, that's the one that actually is applicable and needed, whereas these are already great.
Ed, what do you got?
Well, just because yours is so bad that it can't be helped doesn't mean that you win. I'm sorry. I do believe that my movie, especially Independence Day, would be better because, again, I'm a 24-year-old guy, me and my girlfriend, we're just kicking it, and then I'm going to go fly this alien craft. I just don't get that. But, like, if he's a little bit older, I think that there's more reason for him to have that much security clearance. I think there's more reason for him to be in some of these halls of power rather than, I happened to run into the first one and I beat it up in the desert. No, he's got security clearance because he's old and he's grizzled and he's risen up the ranks, but he's sort of a button pusher. And then pushes him back into it, baby. You know, the added age could help some of those scenes with some of the experiences he has. I think an experienced pilot having that adventure sells it more. Hitch, he is arguably more handsome with the gray temples, but I don't know how that helps it. And Wild Wild West, you could cast Jesus in Wild Wild West and it wouldn't get better. So
Jesus was not a known performer, man.
Time. All right, Dan, can you get a fact check on Jesus? Was he in any community theater?
Jesus wasn't in a lot of community. You name it.
All right, Dan, were there any facts in this round?
Just a couple. Just for context, Will Smith, 51 years old today as we sit here and speak. He was 36 years old when Hitch came out, 30 when Wild Wild West was released, 27 years old when Independence Day came out, which makes me feel like a failure.
Thanks, Will.
Greg said that Independence Day and Hitch were critical hits. I would say they were tolerated by critics. They were fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. I wouldn't say there were a lot of critics jumping out of their seats. They were tolerated by critics.
But they're fresh.
And then I looked this up because I had forgotten this, but yeah, it is true that much of the budget, according to several reports, for The Death of Superman Lives, much of that was indeed shifted to the production of Wild Wild West. So the butterfly effect lives on. The spider effect, I guess.
For that reason alone. Okay, Danielle, will you kick it off here, please?
All right. As precise and scalpel-like, which I didn't mention in the last round as Dorina was, this one, I great arguments, but it did seem to really lean on, I think he would be super hot older. You're right.
And you
super
agree.
hot older.
Yeah.
Like he is. He looks great. Just go on his Instagram, that's what I'm saying. And they hammered you very well on that one as well. And as much, I really liked yours, but Greg really knocked you when he mentioned that was just Randy Quaid's character, which was a harsh knockout.
Huge.
And with Greg, he had more of a 360 about why it would work. Young guys should like the tech, old guys should be into be more grizzled. He might have more experience in some of those other realms. And yeah, like to Ed's point, it would be weird that there's all of a sudden all this really deep slavery stuff. That's already baked in there, though, which is a very weird part of the movie. And he also, I agree, yours is the only one that needs anything, just something.
That's one for Greg. Yeah, you know what, Danielle, get out of my head, because you pretty much said like all the stuff that I thought about this round. Yes, older Will Smith is fine as hell, but I don't know how that's going to make the movie better. Yeah, I thought Greg's. I mean, the major point that hit it home for me was like that. Yeah, that was the that movie's the only real stinkeroo, and this might help it out. So that was very necessary. So after 5 rounds, Greg and Dorina are going into the speed round at 3-2. Ed, I look forward to seeing what you're going to draw.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a good car ride.
That's why I jobbed out. I don't want to walk up the 405.
And Ed, well fought all the way. So we're going to the speed round. It works thusly. I'll ask the question, then the first person to answer will get 20 seconds to elaborate, then we'll have another 20 seconds, and then we'll get 2 10-second rebuttals in that same order. And
Wait, why are you standing? Should I stand?
Oh, I'm just antsy.
Don't stand. They hate that.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't stand. Don't
On the
stand.
show.
Oh, comment.
The whole thing about chairs, dude. You don't know, man.
it's first to 5.
Let's
go to 10.
It's different because it's like you got to get an insurmountable lead. So I'll keep track of it, and it'll be.
Gotcha.
I don't know. I don't know math.
Right.
But watch Charting with Dan every Monday.
He may not know math, but he knows facts.
Okay.
We have 5 questions.
Yes.
We could answer up to 5 questions.
Okay. Whoever amasses an insurmountable lead.
Yes.
That's what happens when you go from 3 regular round questions to 5 regular round
I forgot, it's
questions.
been so long.
Yes.
I haven't been asked that question in like 2 years. If someone gets to 6,
Okay.
Okay.
First to
All right.
6.
Thanks,
There we go. Thank you, Ryan.
We got thrown
Thank
out
you.
by the standing. We weren't sure what was
I'm
happening.
sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
All right. First question. Here we go.
Answering.
Oh, you shout out your answer.
Okay, cool.
Shout out your answer.
Yeah.
El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie, is out now on Netflix. So we ask, what other TV series should get a movie follow-up?
6 Feet Under.
The Defenders.
The Defenders, 6 Feet Under. We heard 6 Feet Under
Should get a
first.
movie follow-up, right? That's the question.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, all right.
Whenever you're ready, Dorina, 20 seconds on the clock.
Okay, 6 Feet Under is, if not the best, one of the best shows we've ever seen, which had a beautiful ending. It doesn't necessarily need a movie specific to those characters, but I think it would be cool as a spin-off similar to Better Call Saul, where it could be a prequel. Maybe we can see the relationship of the sons with the father before he died at the funeral home and them growing up.
20
Does that
seconds.
mean I need to shut up? Okay.
Okay. I mean, you just said it doesn't need a movie specifically, whereas I think the Defenders, they didn't get a chance to close out what they did. There was a large fan base invested in that crossover, and the crossover didn't live up. So if you were to get a movie where you can actually close it out, be able to get some closure and say goodbye to the characters that we all grew to love and invested so much time, it would be worthwhile.
10-second rebuttal.
The Defenders, I love all the characters. However, it was still a weak show to me. As much as I love Jessica Jones and Daredevil and Luke Cage, Iron Fist, not so much. I think that they're all great actors. Ooh, that was fast.
Yeah, 10 seconds.
Well, that's
Greg?
my point. They're all great characters. The shows were great. And the thing is, the crossover didn't live up. But if you can properly focus it and make a great send-off movie, that would be the ultimate reward. And we could finally move on to Disney Plus with no worries.
But
Time.
so
All
you'll
right.
answer
So yes, a
rebuttal.
20-second initial answer, 10-second rebuttal. You know what? I absolutely was going to go with Dorina because 6 Feet Under is an underappreciated gem of a show, but the argument from Greg was better, so I'm going Greg with Defenders. Dan?
I have to agree. I think that Greg argued for the necessity of this movie, whereas I think that even Dorina sort of was like, well, it had a great ending, and ultimately I'm going with Greg as well.
Boom, there we go. It is 4-2. Greg in the lead. Question number 2 of the speed round. Here comes.
In and out.
Who should play young Detective Alonzo Harris in the recently announced Training Day prequel?
Ooh.
What a great question. Chadwick Boseman.
I'm gonna go with Michael B. Jordan.
What's going to be one of those two, right?
I was like,
it's either one of those guys.
All right, we heard Chadwick first. Michael B on deck. Greg, started off. 20 seconds on the clock.
I think it would be an honor. Chadwick Boseman, you could fact check this, was able to attend the acting school he went to because Denzel Washington's paid for this the sponsorship or whatever the hell that's called, scholar, so he can actually go. So and he is mainly inspired by Denzel Washington for the career that he has chosen. He's more akin to Denzel. It would just make a lot more sense in that department.
I think Michael B. Jordan is not only would look the part because it's a prequel and we're talking about younger, but Chadwick's a great actor, but Michael B. Jordan, we've seen him be amazing in crappy movies like Fantastic Four. So there you go. It doesn't matter what movie he makes, he's great in it, and he's very multifaceted and has I think much larger range.
I agree. Michael B. Jordan's a great actor, but if you look at the actual look of Chadwick Boseman, the hair, the body type, everything about him, and the way his cadence, the way he delivers his lines in his like actual American accent, sounds like Denzel Washington.
Yeah, I mean, in that case, then you go with his son, right? Because we're talking about lookalikes. So there's that. But I think Michael B. Jordan is still, I think the better actor. I think Chadwick Boseman, I haven't seen his range as much.
Time. Okay. Danielle.
Ooh, yeah, this one was really difficult. Both of those are great choices. I feel like I heard from Greg, I heard more about like why this would be an honor for him, and maybe like body type and speech is a little much. Whereas I feel like I heard from Dorina a little bit more about good reasons for the casting aside from sentimental stuff. It's true, he is younger. I do think he has a great range. So for those specific reasons, I'm going with Dorina.
Okay, that's one for Dorina. Dan?
I think I would actually. I thought Greg had it fairly well in hand, but then Dorina really closed the gap there at the end, making it a lot harder for me to decide. I think ultimately I still barely am going to go with Greg, but that last argument was really strong. It almost swayed me over to Dorina's side.
Yeah, it actually swayed me. I thought going with John David Washington instead. If you wanted to like really hearken into like some of the elements that Greg was talking about, and she hit like just the tactical acting aspects.
Yes, she did.
So yeah, Dorina closing the gap in the game. It's 4-3. 4-3.
I don't know the rules here at all. I'm just saying words.
We gotta get to 6. One of us just has to get to 6.
All right, it's 4-3. Question 3. Disney is reportedly working on a new live-action Inspector Gadget. It ain't gonna be Matthew Broderick. Who should play the new Inspector Gadget?
Oh, this is hard.
5, 4,
Chris Evans.
3.
Bill Hader.
Okay. Evans, Hader. We heard Chris Evans first. 20 seconds begin when you speak, Dorina.
Chris Evans, we've seen him obviously all as Captain America, and he's great at that, but I miss his comedic skills, and we just saw it recently in Knives Out. I miss him in Scott Pilgrim. He was this hilarious douchebag. I think he can play both comedy and drama really well, and I also think he would be more prone to doing this movie than someone like Bill Hader, who's doing more serious stuff.
I mean, Bill Hader's about to be on the Disney Plus movie with Anna Kendrick, so I don't think that this is something that he would stay away from. But I think his work in Barry really does showcase that he is someone who's great at the investigative kind of roles, but then you back it with that comedic sensibility, that dry kind of humor that Bill Hader has. You get the best of both worlds, I think, within an Inspector Gadget of Bill Hader was Chris Evans.
Oh, okay,
10 seconds.
So I think because he's already busy with that Anna Kendrick movie, I think that's a voice acting role, or is it a real role? I'm not sure. Okay, so then never mind. The point is that I think Chris Evans would be more prone to doing something comedic because Bill Hader has been doing it in SNL forever.
Time. Okay. Greg?
I mean, he hasn't been a series regular on SNL for years. Whereas I think with Chris Evans, he's trying to depart into a lot more serious roles, smaller roles. Whereas Bill Hader's trying to, and he needs a big groundbreaking movie role, and Inspector Gadget could be it.
Time. Okay. Some good stuff. I think, Dorina, we got caught up in the rebuttal trying to ask a question of Greg in the middle of it. Which,
what are you talking about?
Just don't answer. Don't answer.
Your argument around Barry and just your overall choice of Hader really resonated with me, so I'm going Greg on this one. Danielle?
I think that they were both really good points. I do think that with one of the reasons why I just think that Greg hit it when he mentioned that Chris Evans is trying to do smaller stuff. Bill Hader does need a breakout film, and that his dry humor might really offer itself to something like an Inspector Gadget. So I am going with Greg.
Boom. Greg is up 5-3. This is now game point for Greg. Question number 4, the speed round. Here she comes. Who would you most want to see direct a movie in the John Wick-verse?
Ooh.
The Wick-verse. Wick-verse?
Into
Wick-verse.
the Wick-verse?
Who would you most want to see direct a movie in the John Wick-verse?
Not like a sequel, but just a universe.
A movie in the John Wick-verse. Could be a sequel. It could be just a story about the hotel. Could be Ruby Rose's origin story. I don't know, but it's in the John Wick verse.
Why are these questions so hard?
5, 4, 3, 2. You're going to want to say a director before I say 1.
John Woo.
John Woo?
I'm going to go with James Cameron.
Okay. We got Woo Wick and Cameron Wick. All right. Greg, on the clock for John Woo.
John Woo has made some of the best Hong Kong gung fu kind of action movies ever, and yet in the American cinema, he hasn't really had the chance to really prove himself again. He had like Face Off, which was cool, Broken Arrow, right? But ever since then, it hasn't been too great. He deserves a comeback. James Cameron's way too busy with like 14 different Avatar movies. He's really got his pile stacked up where John Woo could actually use this resurgence and go back to, hey, it's me, John Woo.
Well, we're talking about who would we like to see as a director, right? Not who is available, because yes, it's true that James Cameron is doing all these dumb Avatar sequels. But I would rather have him come back to action. I think that I love Aliens, Terminator 2. Obviously, like these are great movies that became classics because of his director's view for action. And I think we're missing that a little bit. As much as the John Wick movies are amazing, damn it, go.
If you look at the James Cameron action movies, they're really big, explosion heavy, whereas John Woo, he is about gunplay, which is what John Wick is required to do. So if you want something that's similar but different, John Woo is the perfect segue.
Yeah, but I don't really want to see, John Wick fighting with an explosion in the background and then Dove flying like above his head.
Oh.
I'm not into that as much. As much as I love John Woo, just saying.
Time.
Hey, Hal.
Dan.
Oh, me, damn it. I have to go first? Okay. Ooh. Wow. This is difficult.
It's called a tie.
I think by a very small margin, I think Dorina won me over with James Cameron returning back to the action roots with Aliens, Terminator 2, the success he's found in the genre. And then that little flick there on John Woo and the tropes and stuff. I think that helped push it over the edge. I'm going with Dorina, but it's very close. Those are two
One for
really good
Dorina.
arguments for two
Maybe
good
I'll get
choices.
Taco Bell.
Real tacos.
Danielle?
All right.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, both of these, they're so hungry. Release the players. You're young. We believe in you. You have stamina.
Yes.
So yeah, both of these were great choices. I want to see all of these. I will say that Greg really had me on gun fu action. Deserves like a chance to make those big movies like the ones that he was making in the 90s again and get something really on there. Both of these, I want to see them. Greg, for me, made a better case for why John Woo would be a better fit.
So one for Dorina, one for Greg. Yeah, at the end of the day, I got to the man who started it all, John Woo. I'd love to see him direct the biggest gun fu franchise right now. I thought we made some good arguments, and I love hearing John Woo get dinged on that dove.
That was a good ding.
It's a classic.
That was a good ding.
Yeah, for sure. Great argument, Dorina. But I got to go, Greg. Greg, you just won movie fights. Well played, everybody. Greg, get some shout-outs.
It's 9 p.m., guys. Go to bed.
Yes.
Let's go to
Yes.
No, I wanna thank you guys for giving me such an entertaining game today, and as much jokes as I'm making, it was just a bit. I really love being here. Everyone knows I love being here.
Right on.
And hey, LA Comic Con, you guys are for sure going.
Oh, yeah. Ed, go ahead and plug some LA Comic Con.
Well, actually, yeah.
This weekend, as you're watching this.
This weekend, as you're watching it.
Head to the LA Convention Center.
Just stop what? No. Watch this on your phone on the way down. No, don't do that either. Put it on the back. No, but this has been really great, and I both these competitors are really awesome, and I'm very happy to have been here. And we're doing a thing called How to Reboot Batman. It's a panel that we're doing at 2:30 on Sunday in room 406 AB, which is a pretty big room, baby. So I would really love for you guys to come down and support me. Hey, if my Scorsese takes are too hot, come down and into the room and tell me about it. Sit in the audience politely for an hour and then tell me about it later. I would love that. So it's really an interesting project that Billy Business and the Nerd Goat crew are doing as a joint venture, and it's just really kind of taking some of these things where you're just like, oh no, why would you reboot that? Stop it. Well, they're going to do it anyway. Why not have it done entertainingly in about an hour in front of you? Yeah. So it's like it's a really unique show, and I would love it's the launch of a whole new venture. So I would love for all the Screen Junkies fans that like me, like my caustic takes, come down and check me out with some more hopeful people as we create a new franchise in front of your eyes.
That sounds super awesome.
So How to Reboot Batman, Sunday at 2:30.
Hell yeah. Sunday 2:30 at the LA Comic Con. Dorina, great stuff today, all day long. Please tell us where we can find you. Give some shout outs.
I will also be at LA Comic Con this weekend.
Yeah.
On Sunday, I have 2 panels going on. You can follow my social media for that on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Evil Dorina. We have a really cool pop culture needle drop panel that's basically about film music and TV, video game music that we're going to have at 12:30, I believe. So please come if you're there. Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun. I was nervous at first, but then you guys are awesome and hilarious. So I hope I'll be back.
Put us on the ropes, man.
Yeah.
Great. You were freaking great. Thank you,
You're
Dorina.
freaking great.
Oh, very nice to hear. Thank you. The Dan Cam, thank you for holding it down, you guys. Please,
my pleasure.
Dan, who's going to take the box office this weekend?
Looks like it's going to be Joker again, but you got Gemini Man coming in, and you got Addams Family, and all kinds of stuff.
Some contenders in there.
Right now, Joker's doing really well. It's having good weekdays. And by the time this comes out, we'll know, but we don't know this when we're filming. Also, just a shout out, you want to know how good my movie fight rivalry with Ed Greer is? Even when we're not competing against each other, we still do.
Scorsese's not a racist.
That's pretty impressive. That might be a first. Yeah.
Good stuff.
That's like when
It can't be contained. Danielle Radford, thank you for being just awesome as hell. Please tell us where we can find you, etc.
Find me on Twitter at Danielle Radford. Find me on Instagram at Danielle_Radford. If you like wrestling, I have a podcast called Titan Fights. Also, something you should be looking at on right here, this channel, the Screen Junkies, we have released our latest episode of Power Levels. It's amazing. It's called Batman v Batman v Batman. We literally took a very smart person, a physicist. We made them look and do the math about which is the best film version of Batman. It's really fun. It's really funny. Everyone worked so hard on it. If you liked the original episode that we did where we talked about the dragons or wyverns, we know. But if you liked that episode, that one was great. We feel like this one has even stepped it up more, so go check that out. That is on the channel now.
Boy, did we hear about wyverns.
Oh my God.
Why did I think I'd hear so much about wyverns?
Oh my goodness. No more wyverns. Thank you, Danielle. Yes, check that out. And if you are at LA Comic Con this weekend, there it is.
We're still here.
Yes. Thank you, JTE, for switching cameras in the booth. Shout out to JTE. So yeah, if you are at LA Comic-Con this weekend, also Saturday, 5 p.m. LA Comic-Con, Tournament of Nerds. It's a super fun show where you get comedians debating on behalf of pop culture characters. It's like a roast battle, but instead of comedians getting personal, you have a roast battle of like Darth Vader versus Iron Man. Yes. Okay, and we're doing that Tournament of Nerds 5 p.m. in room 403B at Comic-Con, LA Comic-Con, and some of our many friends, Lon Harris, Coy Jandro, Danny Fernandez, a lot of familiar pals. Come check it out. And yeah, thank you guys for making this an awesome epic battle. Thank you for watching. Hoot hoot, hashtag Owl Nation. Hit me up on Twitter at Hal Rudnick. Bye bye. Thank you, Billy Biz, Ryan, and JTE.
Why?